Hi and welcome to our Conceive Baby discussion today. Today we'll be talking about a very topical issue, and that's Christmas. But Christmas from a very different perspective. I have heard Christmas described as the perfect storm when it comes to coping with infertility. There is Santa, happy families, presents, children. When all that's on your Christmas list is a baby, that can often be too much. So today we're really going to address that often unspoken issue with a very personal story. Firstly, if you haven't joined us before, my name's Tasha Jennings. I'm a naturopath, nutritionist, natural fertility specialist, founder of Conceive Baby, and author of the Vitamins Guide and the Fertility Diet. And if you are already part of the Conceive Baby community, you would know I'm passionate about helping women and couples fall pregnant and have happy, healthy babies. I do this through the information site, conceivebaby.com.au, and also my personal consultations and courses at tashajennings.com.au. And it's a real pleasure to be speaking today with someone who is living and breathing this journey right now. Not only that, Sophie Sulehria is bravely sharing her story on BBC Radio to help others who may be struggling with infertility as well. Sophie is a BBC reporter. She and her husband Jonny started IVF after being told that they would not be able to conceive naturally due to Sophie's endometriosis and low ovarian reserve. But 6 failed rounds and £40,000 later, they came to realise that treatment wasn't working for them. They knew they would need to consider other options if they wanted to start a family. Sophie and Jonny have since decided to share their journey on BBC Radio 4's PM program. The program, Our Fertility Journey, follows them as they meet with people who have found alternative ways to have a child. So welcome, Sophie. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming to us. We were just talking about before, Sophie's actually on the other side of the globe. I'm here in Melbourne, where it's very hot and sunny, and Sophie's on the other side of the globe, where it's very cold. And
it's not the weather. I'm looking out of my window. It is grey. It's raining. It is the worst day. I'm jealous that you are over there in Australia. Put it that way.
I do love that about technology, that we can talk to each other.
Yeah.
Across the other side of the world. So, I mean, first of all, it's a great honour to be speaking with you. It's so brave of you what you're doing and helping other couples. So tell us a bit about your journey so far.
Wow. Well, I mean, to us, it feels like a very long journey. I think for a lot of other couples, they've been through a longer one than us. So I'm not going to claim it, but we're coming into our 5th year of our time of trying for a baby. Year 4 we're saying goodbye to it, thank goodness. Let's hope year 5's better. But yeah, we've had 4 long years of trying. We started trying for our baby just after we got married. We got married in 2012. By 2013, I personally had a real inkling that something was wrong. It had only been 6 months that we'd been trying, but I just knew, I was having extremely difficult tummy pain, period pain. It wasn't working for us. I think the fact that my friends managed to get pregnant at the drop of a hat and I was struggling so much maybe made me a little paranoid. But I think also underlying, I could tell that there was something wrong. And I went to our doctors and I said, look, I just think this isn't right. And after a bit of exploration, we worked out and we found out that I had grade 4 endometriosis. For people that don't know what that is, it's when the womb lining grows outside of your womb. It doesn't shed like your period should, and it is essentially an obstacle course for eggs and sperm, and that's not ideal when trying for a baby. And grade 4 is very, very high. It started growing on my reproductive organs, but also on my diaphragm and other parts, kidneys. So I needed 2 operations to get rid of it. But during this period, we also then had a blood test to find out if everything else was okay. And that was when we found out that my AMH levels were also incredibly low and that I had a very low ovarian reserve. So thrown into the world of IVF as you are, and we tried 6 rounds in total. Each round got worse and worse, if I'm honest with you. And it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely horrific. You know, we've never had high egg numbers. I've only ever managed to produce 1 or 2 eggs, only ever managed to fertilize 1 of them, and only ever managed to get to the 2-week wait 3 times. So actually out of the 6 rounds, 3 of them ended in before we even entered the egg collection phase, which is very, very difficult. And then we essentially, for so many reasons, for the sake of my mental health, Jonny's mental health, for the sake of our marriage, for the sake of time, we decided that at 35, we'd have to stop. So the last round of IVF happened the month before my 35th birthday. So I turned 35 on the 2nd of September. So we started at the end of July. And 2 weeks, I think it was, middle of July, then 2 weeks before my 35th birthday, we sadly found out that round hadn't worked. And weirdly, that was actually one of our better rounds. You know, we collected 2 eggs, 1 didn't fertilize, the other did, but just wasn't viable. I mean, it didn't stay. And it was pretty heart rendering, really. We're obviously now here. It's December, 3 months on. As we'll talk about, we decided to make this series for Radio 4. People over there in Australia, I don't know if they'll know Radio 4, Tasha, will they?
We can get it on the internet. It's not
Yeah.
On our TV and radio, but with the advent of, all this new technology, we can certainly listen to it. And if anyone hasn't already seen The Journey from Australia, it is a fabulous series. I mean, you are very real in the series, which I really credit you for. And I think it's a great inspiring for other people who are going through this, because it is often silenced. I found it quite emotional, so I can only imagine what doing this was, but I found it quite emotional listening too. So
and I think that the funny thing is, I say this now that we're sort of into it, but I don't know if I necessarily thought through all the emotional side of stuff before we made it. I mean, I work for the BBC. I work as a regional reporter in the east of England, but when we were going through the IVF, I was kind of frantically looking for other people that were going through exactly what we were going through. And that wasn't just, there's a huge community out there for people that are trying for a baby or are going through the IVF cycle or are adopting or are choosing donor eggs. But I couldn't find anyone to talk to who was going through what we were going through, in that nothing was working for us in terms of our biological child, and we weren't ready to move on to that next step. We didn't know what we wanted to do. And so I was going to initially make a podcast. I thought that would be a good way of sort of sharing my story and helping others. But because I work for the BBC, I'm a bit of I chat. So I was talking to a lot of people, and I said, this is what I was thinking to do. And they said, well, actually that might work somewhere on the BBC. So Radio 4 is a huge, hugely listened to radio station. It's one of the biggest in Britain. And basically, I went to the PM programme, 6 million listeners it has a day. And I thought, well, you know what, if I'm going to spread a message, I think that's quite a good way to do it. Yeah. They were really, really keen. They said, it would be really nice to hear this story. But I think I said, right, fine, but we've got 1 more round left before my 35th birthday. And they said, well, would you record it? And I thought, well, yeah, okay, let's do it. And that's about as much thought as I gave it. And when we were going through the cycle, the roller coaster of the IVF, I kind of initially started by just thinking about this microphone in my hand and how I was portrayed. I went into reporter mode, But after a while, I forgot it was there. And really, when we went through the motions, it was unsuccessful. Spoiler alert, if you've not heard this. It was unsuccessful, and I edited the piece again in reporter mode, and I filed it, and I didn't listen to it again until it went out live. And it's 10 minutes of it's condensing a month of IVF treatment into 10 minutes, so it's never going to be completely true to life, but it is as near as you're going to get, I think, if you've never experienced something like that. And the response was just incredible. I've had people from all over the world. I had yourself contact me and say, you know, I'm so sorry, and can I help you? We've had people come to us and say, I'm so sorry, and we're in the same position and we've got no one to talk to, and thank you. And people that have come out the other side and want to offer advice, and people that have just said, you know what, we had no idea about infertility, and now we do, and I'm so grateful for that, you know, because the chances are, you do know somebody. You may not know publicly somebody going through this, but I mean, over here in the UK, 50 million couples walk into an IVF clinic every year. That doesn't include the couples that haven't had IVF, or the couples that are struggling and are waiting for IVF. That's just the couples that are accessing it, and that's just here. So the likelihood is, you know, somebody that is suffering, and because whether it's because it's taboo, or it feels like a private issue, or whether it just you don't feel confident to tell people, it's just not spoken about. And I think that's the key. Yeah. Because I think that's the key.
Stories like yours are breaking down the stigma, because there are a lot of people struggling. In Australia here, I know it's 1 in 6 that struggle with infertility, and that's, I guess, just the reported cases. As you said, there's a lot of people who may slip under the radar. So there are a lot of people, and then 1 in 6, 3 end up in miscarriage. So those sort of statistics are very high. But it's since I got into this industry, I'm a bit the same as yourself. People have come out of the woodwork who have admitted, I have struggled, or I have miscarried, and who have not spoken to it, that I've been reasoning close to since. So it's wonderful that you are breaking down some of these stigmas.
And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. You know, we didn't wake up one morning and think, oh, well, we'll go public. You know, from the moment we did, I felt completely exposed. I felt so vulnerable. I felt like all of a sudden this big secret that I'd had carried around with me for the last 4 years, the cleaner at my work office knew, and everybody knew. And you know, a lot of people just probably swallowed the information, if I'm honest, and just got on with their day. But for me, it was the biggest thing in the world. It took a while to get used to that, you know. It did. It took a couple of weeks for me to just keep my head down and think, okay, this is okay, you know, regroup and remember that why we're doing it and what we're doing.
Have you found it a benefit? I mean, is it something that you would recommend to other people? Obviously not going out and probably talking on their radio program, but talking to other people, friends and family, which they may not be doing at the moment. Have you found talking about it helpful for your emotional health, yourself and Jonny?
Yeah. Okay. So I think you're right. I think that unless you're in a very strong place, I think I would probably no. Do you know what? Yes, I'm not going to even. I'm going to not even do two sides about this. I do think that it's important to talk. I think that whether it be publicly because you feel like you want to spread a message and you want to help others, or whether that be just telling your closest friends and family about what's going on, I do think it's important to talk, because I think with a life-limiting illness, take cancer for example, it's such a gone are the days where it was the big C, you know, nobody said the word. People are saying now, you know, I have cancer, or my friend has cancer, and this we need to help them, we need to talk about this, we need to support them. And I think that that's the shift change that we need in the infertility world, because people don't understand it. I think unless you're going through something like this, people don't understand it. The amount of people that came to me after we'd shared our IVF journey and said, I had absolutely no idea that IVF took up that much of your time. I thought you went in, you had your eggs collected, and they went back inside again. And people that have done IVF, that, you know, the fact you've actually got to go to the clinic every other day, if not every day, you've got to inject yourself up to 5 times a day, you've got to watch your diet, you've got to sleep well, drink a huge amount of water, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. And then with every time you're at the doctor, you're being told seismic news, you've got 5 follicles. Oh, only 2 of them are growing. These are highs and lows are coming hourly. Absolutely. And I don't think people do know that. And I think that, so to say to somebody, oh, we're going through IVF, we're going, and you don't know what they are perceiving from that. And so, and that just doesn't go for people that you acquaintances. This is your mum and dad and brothers and sisters and families and friends. And I do think they benefit. I do think they benefit with that conversation, from that conversation. And also it helps them to understand when you can't go to social events, or when you don't feel to leave the house for 4 days because you just aren't in a place to talk to anyone or see anyone. And actually, honesty, I think, through this process is a better policy than trying to shy away from it. And I would encourage a chat. And I know I'm on a roll now, but if there isn't anyone around you feel you can talk to, there are a lot of support groups out there. And it's counselling. They're 2 things that I think that I didn't realise I'd tap into, that I actually have and have really benefited me, After our 3rd year, we went through a very, very dark place. It wasn't working for us and we just didn't know what to do. And we tapped in, we found a counsellor, and talking to her, she was just absolutely incredible. And I can't rate that process enough.
I think stories like yourself, it actually encourages other people to do the same, because it does help. People around you obviously do want to help, they do care about you, but they don't understand. It's as you said, the huge emotional toll of the information you're being given, and plus the hormones that you're taking that can mess around with that emotional stability anyway. So if the more people can understand what you're going through, it can make an incredible difference. So I think it's fantastic that you are sharing your story.
Thank you.
You are speaking with other couples as well. I know, look, if it hasn't watched the series, I know in one of the episodes you actually speak with a couple who had a donor child. Is that
absolutely?
How was that? Finding out it was a donor egg that they used at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that for some couples, they can come to that decision very quickly, or very much easier than we have. I don't know whether it's because I'm an only child, or whether it's because my parents are very mixed heritage. I've got a lot of different bloodlines in there. And I've always placed a lot of emphasis on my own genetic child, my own biological baby. And I think it's funny because Jonny and I speak, and he says, I just haven't really placed my genetics so firmly into my future like you have. And it really has always been quite a big thing in my mind to like carry on the genes. And actually donor eggs are something that we're really struggling to come to terms with in that regard. There are studies out there that show that the woman has a huge amount of influence on the egg, and potentially even passes some of their DNA through. But essentially you are asking another woman or another man, if it's a sperm donor, to join your marriage. This is how I see it. And help with your baby. Do you know what? It's absolutely phenomenal if you think about it. These people, these donors, are incredible. Over here in the UK, it's not anonymous anymore. So gone are the days where you could just silently donate your sperm or your eggs and help a couple without knowledge. But now it's very important. People in the IVF world over here have said that it's extremely important for a child to know its background and its heritage and its genetics. And so for that reason alone, donors aren't anonymous anymore. Therefore, we haven't got as many, of course. And it also has a massive impact on the future parents, because they have to come to terms with the fact that actually this person's a real person, and they're really sort of part of this relationship for the future. That said, I'm huge steps forward with that since I met Claire, who was the lady who spoke to me for the series. And it was her energy and her passion, of course, that sort of drew me in. But really, it was also meeting her little boy. I mean, Eddie is sensational. She went over to Prague in Europe to go and collect an egg, not because it was anonymous, it is anonymous over there still, but actually because it's just an awful lot cheaper. And so she and her husband don't have a huge amount of money, and they thought, we really, really want a baby. And she had exactly the same condition as me. She had premature ovarian failure, and she was told from the age of 28 or something that she had very few eggs. And she went and they got this egg and had it implanted, and it worked. And her love for this little boy, it's incredible. I mean, there is absolutely no difference in her love for a biological child and adopted child. I just don't think that when you finally have your baby or your child or your 5-year-old or whatever, that you feel any differently. That's what the series has taught me. I just don't think that. I mean, we've got a kitten. We got a kitten a year ago. I swear, we're obsessed. We're besotted with her. She's quite clearly neither of her genetic makeup. I mean, Johnny's hairy, but this cat. And so I think that's the point, you know. I think that's what we've learned in this very short time. I've done a sort of 360 in the sense that I've learned to realise that you can be a parent in a lot of ways. You don't have to, you know, make it yourself and give birth or anything like that. There's a whole host of ways that you can do it.
There are really now. I know we recorded a webinar yesterday, actually, was talking about embryo donation and the rights and options for the donor child, for the donor parents, and there is a lot of options now available. But as you said, it's still something that you need to come to terms with, and you need to be on the same page with your husband or partner.
I think that's exactly the point, isn't it? Because there are a lot of options out there. One thing that we've encountered since releasing the series are a lot of people that have said, I mean, well, a lot, but a couple of handfuls, I guess, of people that have said, just adopt. There's over 100,000 children out there that need adoption. Absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. There are, and it's not off the table for us. You know, adoption's very much on the table for us. I mean, it would be a very neutral way of having a baby that's neither of our genetics, and it would be an amazing thing to do, and it would also be amazing for us. So it's on the table. But you have to grieve the baby you've not been able to have yourself, and that's really crucial, you know. Not being able to have your own biological child is a death of a dream, and it is a bereavement. And that is what I don't think people understand. Not as many as they can, because I don't know about you, I don't know about anybody else, but we as a couple started talking about wanting our own child from pretty much the moment we met. You know, I think we were a year together, and we said, well, actually, you know, I'm really keen to have a family. He's, yeah, me too. And we would talk about the fact we want 3. We'd have the girl first, and then the little boy in the middle. And we wouldn't want to have them any time near the sort of this period of, because it's cold or that. And, you know, these dreams, these very specific dreams sort of lessen and lessen until now, of course, we're like, we'd be happy with any baby of any sex. They can be born at any time. We're not fussy. But you have to grieve the things that you wanted, you know, when you first met and married and hoped for, and that doesn't just go for this, you know, this goes for anything. People that have been told that sadly they're not going to live past, you know, the ages that they thought, you know, they've got a serious illness, or somebody that's perhaps even, you know, maybe a man or a woman that wants to be married by a certain age and haven't found their life partner. You know, these are dreams that we all hope for when we first, you know, start life, and have to sort of come to terms with and move forwards with. And it's not easy, is it? We've all got our own problems.
I guess particularly with infertility, I don't know what it's like in the UK, but you just told how easy it is to fall pregnant. As you said, all your friends fall pregnant easy, and people aren't aware that there's issues. I know I certainly didn't anticipate to have any difficulty, because everyone told you how easy it is. So I think there is that lack of awareness that makes those dreams seem very real. You don't consider that there is any other possibility.
No, absolutely. And you know, I think it's really important to say that, you know, we all still have to be very careful if we're teenagers and we're having fun, because of course we're far more fertile at 18. But we're fed, aren't we? We're fed since we turn 15. You know, the moment you have a sexual relationship, you're going to get pregnant. You've got to be very careful. And I laugh at the amount of pills and whatnots we took. Completely unnecessarily in the end, because we thought it would be so easy, we did, and that's naive potentially, but it's true, it's not that easy. You can only fall pregnant, I think, 3 days of the month if you are ovulating.
Even in healthy couples, there's a 25% chance. That's if you're completely fertile, there's a 25% chance each month. Yeah. I think we're not told those statistics initially, and I think that is a disadvantage. So hopefully, podcasts like this, sharing your story, the radio program can help to, I guess, break down the stigma of infertility, and also create some more awareness in younger people who, obviously, very valid message, as you said. Contraception is certainly a very valid point, but it is also needs to be flip side that understand infertility.
Well, exactly. And, I spoke to somebody yesterday and I said, if I could, I've got a lot of regret, sadly, as a woman, and that's part of the reason I've decided to go so public, because I think it's really important for me for endometriosis to become a conversation. I don't know the statistics, please don't quote me, but I think it's 1 in 5 women or something. I think a huge amount of women suffer from it in some form. But if you're having really heavy periods and you're in a lot of pain as a 20-something-year-old, I think it's really important for you to acknowledge that and to say to the doctors, I wonder if it's this, I hope it isn't this. It's not easy to, very sadly, it's not easy to diagnose endometriosis completely. For us, it got so bad you could tell on an external scan, but actually the way to find out if you've got it is a laparoscopy, which is a camera that goes inside your tummy through keyhole surgery. It's not ideal, but I think that if you are concerned that you have this as an issue as a 20-something, get it checked out, because if I'd pushed harder when I was 21, 22, I might have been given tablets or something to have prevented it from building up, so that in my 30s it wouldn't be so bad. Also, test. I'm starting to think that kids should be testing their, young women should be testing their ovarian reserve. If they were having a blood test in their 20s to find out if everything's okay, there are then options. If I'd had a blood test when I was 22 or 23 to find out how many eggs I had, potentially I could have frozen some. I could have been aware of it when I got into my relationship, not to hang around. I'm also keen to sort of not make young women paranoid. I want them to continue. I think it's fantastic that women are choosing to throw themselves into careers now, and I think that it's empowering. It's extremely empowering that they're not thinking of starting families so young anymore, and it's not the first thing on their mind. But I guess education and awareness is important also. It's a very fine line. It's a very difficult balance, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that you hit the nail on the head there. That's what I totally agree with, the education and awareness. And that's why I created conceivebaby.com.au.
Yeah.
When I realised I was in the same boat. There was no information out there. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I was a naturopath. My husband's a cardiologist. We had a lot of information at our fingertips. And if you don't, it does create a lot of problems, and you often don't start early enough. We aren't aware of these things in our teens and our 20s. We do take a lot for granted. So, look, hopefully the message, the tables are turning. I think the infertility message is getting out there slowly. So, and I know there's a lot of people that are struggling, that are possibly watching this as well, who are in a similar situation to yourself, and us looking up to Christmas. Well, how do you get through? You've obviously faced 4 Christmases now. Going through this, what would you say to other people who are possibly not even wanting to get up Christmas morning? What do you suggest to help them cope with this season?
Yeah, it's hard. Look, we've got to acknowledge it. It is a hard time of year. I am feeling a lot stronger than I have in previous Christmases, but still now, I've really had this sense of feeling that Christmas is for children, and I still now to this day think, oh well, one day Christmas will be super special, and I wish I wasn't. I wish I didn't feel like that. And I think that a couple of changes I've made this year that I haven't done in the past is is really some of the stuff I've already spoken about, and that is tapping into resources that I didn't know were there. You know, I've met this wonderful lady, her name's Kelly De Silva. She started this fantastic support network over here in the UK. Have you spoken to her before?
I know
You seem
her.
like,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. So she's an absolutely wonderful person, and I think you might benefit from doing a webinar with her one day. She and her husband tried and failed with IVF and decided no, they're not going to do another route for one reason or another. They decided that they were going to live their life as an involuntarily childless couple. But as part of that decision, she started a support network called the Dovecote, and it's a Facebook group, and it's also online. It's for anyone across the world, and you guys, you know, over there, anyone can join it. And really, she's just wonderful. You can just, it's a very safe space for couples or for people separately that haven't got children for one reason or another, not just because they can't and because they've tried and failed, but women, as I mentioned earlier, that thought they'd be in a different place by now and haven't got that partner, and they're 45, 50, and they've realised that actually their baby years probably are behind them, and they're just grieving that. And people just go in and they just say what's on their mind, you know. They'll say, I'm feeling really low today because I just desperately wish there were family around me. Or there's people that have said I'm feeling really positive and brilliant, Christmas is coming and I'm doing this, this and this, and I'm looking forward to it for once, you know. So somewhere like that is a really, really safe, nice space to be if you're feeling lonely or sad or depressed or you need some support. And actually I've printed off, I'm going to try not to read, but I've printed off some wonderful tips that Kelly put into the Dovecote group.
No, great. Please do. We'll put links to the Dovecote on the website
fantastic,
as well, so people can go in.
It's just 5 easy points to remember to survive Christmas. Number one, it is okay that you're not okay, and reassuring yourself that that is a normal thing. You know, if you wake up one morning during December and you think, I just cannot face this month, it's okay. Yeah, you're going through a really difficult time. Infertility is a disease. It's not a choice. It's not a decision we've all woken up and thought one morning that we wanted. It is a disease, and it is a significant mental health and physical health condition. And you're allowed. It is easy to forget that, and I think it's important you remember it. It's also okay to say no. You know, if you feel like the last thing you want to do on Christmas Day is wake up with the troop of kids that you've decided you're going to spend Christmas with, and you thought in July would be a good idea to spend with, and you can't do it, it's okay. You just explain, and you just phone the person that you were supposed to spend it with. You know, often it's family, and you say, I just can't this year, you know. We've had to cancel so many events. We've had to leave parties, you know, and the guilt that came with it. And you shouldn't feel guilty. You know, if you're at a party and a copious amount of people are talking about their children, you don't fancy it, just say you've got to get up early and you leave. It's okay. Make a plan that suits you. That's another tip she gives. You know, if you want to go for a walk in the woods on your own with your partner, and that's the kind of thing that you want to do, then make that plan, you know. It's also really, do you know what I find? People find that Christmas is a great time to announce their pregnancies, or they think it's a really good time to sort of, you know, spread joyous news. And I think that if you've got a sense that that's going to happen, you know, you've got to protect yourself. If that's the sort of thing you want to avoid, you've got to protect yourself. And I think the other thing about Christmas is all these traditions and rules and rituals, you know. And when I was young, I used to grab my stocking and run in to see my parents and open it with them. And as years have gone by, I think that people have felt like they need to join in with that family tradition forever. And no, make your own tradition. You know, if you and your husband want to stay in bed until midday, then that's your new tradition, isn't it? From this year forwards, we're not getting up past 12 o'clock, and then we're just only going to eat selection box chocolate, and that's all we're going to do. And finally, self-care is incredibly important, and, you know, take some time out for you. If you've just had to buy 16 children's presents for umpteen members of the family, then spend a day having a massage and a facial, if that's what you want to do. If you want to veg out in front of the telly. And I think the overall message is just be a bit selfish. It's a really, really bad thing to say, isn't it, over such a festive, joyous time? But if you are struggling, then just be a bit selfish and just think, what do I want to do?
I think it's important to let people know, as you said, to relieve the guilt, because people can do the selfish thing, but there's that so much guilt that goes with it. But to acknowledge that this is something you're struggling with, this is a disease that you have, this is an emotionally, physically draining condition, that you are perfectly okay to not be okay. So,
exactly. So that is my top 5 tips. To be fair, they're not even mine, but I believe in and agree with every single one. And get yourself onto the Dovecote. You can join it from any part of the world, and she's just great support and really, really nice tips in there for how to deal with the stage that you're at when you haven't got children. So I do highly recommend it. And of course, I recommend listening to our series as well. If you don't know what those next steps are, 2018 is a new year, and you might feel to have a new plan. Similarly, you might feel like you don't have any plan at all, and that's fine, but at least getting some knowledge and as we've spoken about a lot, some education around this might potentially help.
There are so many options, and it's great to see that there is more education out there, and we'll definitely put links to your series and links to the Dovecote in the summary on the conceivebaby.com.au website. You'll be able to go and see this webinar, obviously, and also get those links, because I think they are very important, not only this time of year, which is very important, obviously, but throughout the year there are ups and downs.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Are there anything else final thoughts you'd like to leave us with before we wrap up today?
I just want to say thank you, really. Thank you for finding me, Tasha. Thank you for people that are listening, but also just thanks for everything that people have given us over the last 3 months. People's support and advice and friendship have been invaluable. So that's all from me, and happy Christmas, and have a good one.
Thank you so much. And I know I reached out to you after watching your radio program, actually. If anyone doesn't know, I emailed Sophie just to offer my help and support after hearing that, and, having been through a snippet of it myself, feeling the emotions that came with listening to that. So, and I just want to, congratulate you again on the series, and for really helping to create that awareness that is so important.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't already joined the live webinar series, we have some fantastic guests lined up for 2018. So jump on conceivebaby.com.au and sign up for the live webinar series. We also have all of our replays on the podcast and the webinars page. And if you'd like to contact me personally for consultations or my courses, it's at tashajennings.com.au. I look forward to seeing you next time.